Aujourd'hui, je vais parler de the end of the current US Open tennis tournament, well, the men's side at least. And mainly, I wanted to reflect on what's most likely, at least the beginning of the end of the era of the big three, right? That's Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic. Hey, XenPuck here. So I've been a fan of tennis basically since I've become a real adult, so post-college. Good lord, that's basically 20 years ago, and what an era to be a fan of the dudes game. I mean, I am actually a fan of the ladies games too, but the ladies side has had much more variety in terms of like who's winning than the dudes side, at least since I've been a fan. And today I just realized that we're heading into the end of the US Open tournament, which is one of the four majors, the last one of the year. And not a single one of the big three players is even in the semifinals, and that just feels totally weird, okay? If you're not sure who the big three are, that's Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, and Novak Djokovic, right? I mean, sometimes people like to toss in like Andy Murray to the top of this era, but I'm sorry, that dude's only got like 3 majors, whereas the big three, oh boy, they all have like 20 or more. Okay, specifically the count I think is Federer has 20, Nadal has 22, and Djokovic has 21. I'm sorry. That's why they're called the big three, and they're absolutely at the top of the tennis world, right? At least for the last couple of decades, right? In sports terms, that's just almost unbelievable to talk about out loud, right? So today I just want to rant about how my personal perception of these players have changed over time and who my favorite is. Of course, that's just an opinion. I know everyone's got one of those, but hey, that's this is America. At least that's where I am, and it feels good to just be able to sound off on whatever topic you want, right? So comment, like, subscribe, and share, and all that social media buzzwords, or whatever. Honestly, nothing other people do these days can really dent me, so I'll be great regardless. So first, I gotta start with the Fed, right? RF, the Fed Express, the Maestro. I have to say, I probably started watching tennis just to watch this dude like move around the court. I mean, on a grass court, Roger Federer looks like he's gliding on ice sometimes, right? Like it looks like he's got skates. Especially if you compare his footwork against like the more plebeian runs of his greatest and longest rival, who is, Rafael Nadal. It's really hard to dislike any part of Federer's game, right? And over time, I realized that he's pretty much the basic choice to be a fan of, right? Everyone seems to like Federer because of his very complete game. His very calm composure, and even some of his really sweet branded logos. Yep, I said it, even his swag just seems classier than the other guys' stuff, okay? I mean, I read that when Roger was younger, he was a bit more of a hothead, but since I've started watching tennis, he seems like the consummate gentleman. I mean, men's tennis couldn't have molded a better ambassador for the game, right? And for the first decade of my fandom in the sport of tennis, it really looked like there was no way Roger wouldn't end up being basically the greatest of all time, right? Alas, history had other plans. Oh boy. The second guy, right? It's hard to mention Roger without immediately mentioning Rafael Nadal. I mean, my first impression of Nadal was that he was like kind of an energetic upstart, right? A real blue-collar type of guy. He was younger, he looked in better shape, really tried to make capri pants on dudes work. Yeah, I'm serious. Like, if you haven't seen any older footage of his, like, how Rafa was dressed in his earlier tournaments, like when he was in his early 20s, check those out. Check out what kind of pants he was wearing. I mean, I actually don't understand why, and still don't, but hey, at least it demonstrates some level of individuality, right? I mean, this dude had incredible topspin forehands. His grunting was also somewhat unusual for the dudes of that era, and his roadrunner-like speed when chasing balls, especially on clay, are pretty legendary, okay? And look, right now, as of late 2022, Nadal's literally got the most majors ever won, right, at 22. Results usually speak for themselves, right? Even though I've always preferred Federer, right? As time has gone on, I've also come to empathize with Nadal for different reasons, all right? His energetic style of play has always was always going to subject him to more injuries, right? And he's had some real major comebacks because he has like some sort of foot chronic conditions on his foot. He's just had a lot of injuries because of the way he plays, right? or that's how it feels, right? But I think what really gets to me, so that I've liked Nadal more in recent years, that he's just not that team phenom anymore, right? This dude is like past the mid-30s, right? Which in sports is ancient, and the elite sports almost unheard of, right? So when I now hear him hit a ball and grunt, it's hard to not think of a man who's chasing those last hurrahs, right? Frankly, at this point, I just want to see him win one more so that I can symbolically pretend that even someone in their, past their 30s, mid-30s can still be the absolute best, okay? So basically, I got the old man love for him because he just sounds like he's trying so hard. Okay, finally, the Joker. Gotta get one thing out of the way. I don't agree with Novak Djokovic's stance on COVID vaccinations, right? But I'm not a doctor and I don't know this dude personally, right? So if he says he can't take the COVID vaccine because of whatever specific health reasons, frankly, I don't think most people are in a place to judge, right? After all, he's at least putting his money where his mouth is, because he's been banned from several majors because of his choice on not taking the vaccine, right? That means less earnings and less prestige. Heck, he's a bit younger than Nadal, and most experts would have guessed that he could equal or maybe even, exceed Nadal's major win count, right? But that was pre-pandemic. At the current rate, if he can't even play at 2 out of the 4 majors, catching up at the major wins would be much harder, right? So because of Novak's anti-vax stance, right, he's currently basically the default villain in men's tennis. But is that a surprise? This has been a dude that was always willing to play the role of villain a little bit, right? He likes playing pranks, and he looks just like a petulant child, right? This dude's facial expressions, right? I would venture to say out of the big three, he has always been the one that's most likely to actually have some sort of emotional outburst, right, on court. But is there something wrong with that, right? We're not watching robots hit balls back and forth, right? Tennis players are only humans, so I've always had a soft spot for the Joker. Heck, even his nickname seems fitting, right? Is it because he likes to play pranks, or is it like the villain Joker that it's referring to? Who cares? But considering that tennis is a one-on-one duel, if we want to root for one player as a hero, then a villain is basically a requirement, right? So I still have to give Novak props, not only for being able to play the role of the villain occasionally, but also for still winning, despite the fact he's cheered against maybe half the time, not all the time, right? So who is my favorite still at this day and age, right? Now that I'm a middle-aged dude. I think for nostalgic reasons, because I was a fan when I didn't know more about the sport, it's still going to be Federer on top for me, right? But the thing is, though, as I've gotten older, I realized that Roger Federer pretty much stands for a version of a player or a person that I wish I could be, right? He's like the James Bond of tennis players, right? He's the person that I want to be, but not remotely the person that I am, okay? Now, Nadal, with his battle with injuries and fatigue and just getting old, like he just looks different, right? And Novak's mental battle with a crowd, feeling like a black sheep / outsider. Now, these are actually elements of a player's stories that I could like really more empathize with, especially as I've matured, right? Maybe 5 years ago, I would have resented the fact that, it looks like Roger was losing his grip at the, GOAT conversation because of Nadal and Novak. But now, looking through the lens of, middle-aged dude, I get it a little bit more, right? I wish Nadal all the best, even though he didn't look his best this year, being outset by a player that's at least like, a decade younger, by the way, okay, at the US Open of 2022. But I still think he has maybe one more in him, And for Djokovic, he's always been a kooky dude, okay? And that's partly why people liked him, right? Or at least those of us who do like him a little bit. I do wish he would just get the vaccine jab so he could threaten Nadal's major count more easily. After all, as in any competition, we want to see, a real toss-up between the conversation and GOAT, right? We don't want to see like somebody lose just because they couldn't play in as many tournaments, okay? And I know the era of the big three may be drawing to a close, but as a recently turned old guy, I just want to see it drag on just maybe a year or two, a little bit longer, right? Cheers. I'll approach it.